G'day and welcome back to the channel. So as someone who's out in the real world day to day, a lot of people, not just as they get older, but people in general, tend to be missing the ability to turn your head or rotate your head from side to side in both directions fully. So in today's video, I want to show you a really simple exercise, a really fast acting way to reclaim some of that neck rotation. So if you're someone who's driving a car and you're struggling to do a head check, or you're a swimmer and you can't quite turn your head to the side, or even if you're just having trouble lying on your side or in your belly trying to sleep, then it's really important that you do this exercise to try and reclaim some of that neck rotation, the head rotation, and allow you to improve how you're living your life day to day. So the first thing that we need to touch on before we get to this exercise is we need to establish a baseline of how your head and neck is moving to begin with. Obviously, this is a great thing to do to start with, so that once you do this exercise, you can quickly reassess the exact same motion again to see exactly what has changed, if anything, straight away. So the first thing we want to touch on, we're going to do some rotational movements from side to side, nothing fancy at all. But what I want you to do, whether you're in a sitting position or a standing position, is make sure that you start from a good posture. So make sure that you're up nice and tall, shoulders comfortably back. Take a video or a photo, yourself turning from side to side just to see how far you feel you can go. For me, I feel a little bit tight through here. I feel like there's some muscular pulling. When I come around to this side, I feel like there's a little bit more jamming up that goes on. So there is differences in terms of what you feel may be restricting you. If it does get a bit jammed up and stuck, that may suggest that some of the joints aren't moving really well. If you feel like there's some muscular tightness or some really strong pulling, then obviously the muscles might be one of the limiting factors in that moment. So all we need you to do for this exercise is we're going to take a ball. You can use two balls in the form of a peanut if you want to. You can tape it together. Doesn't matter what type of ball that you use. You can use a tennis ball, lacrosse ball, baseball, cricket ball. All that I ask is that you choose a ball and a surface that you feel is comfortable for you. So what we want to do basically is take the ball, we're going to press the ball into the top section of your neck. Now the reason for this is that the main amount of rotation that comes from your head and neck when you move comes from the top section of your neck. So we want to make sure that we're looking for any of those restrictions, take them away so you can reclaim that normality. So what we're going to do to start with, we'll place the ball right in the middle of your neck, right up the top, right underneath the base of your skull. We're just going to get you to lie down or lean up against the surface that you want to be on. And what I'll have you do here is I'm going to get you to turn your head slightly to one side to begin with. Now, there's going to be some muscles that attach from your skull to your neck that might feel a little bit tight here. Take note of that. We also want to gently sink into the joints underneath all of this. If you're not sure where you need to be specifically, if you compare that spot to the exact same spot on the other side, you'll find that one side will feel a little bit more tight, a little bit denser, a little bit stiffer, a little bit tighter, possibly a little bit more tender, but we don't want to use that as our symptom of interest. We want to get a sense of how things are moving, because remember, you may not necessarily be experiencing neck pain when you move side to side. We're just dealing with rustiness and tightness. So it's really important to make sure that we're following where you feel the most restriction tends to be, not just where you find the most tenderness, because they could be opposite sides. So all we're going to get you to do here is going to get you to find a spot that feels a bit restricted, and then we're going to get you to stay here. We're going to get you to let the ball sink in a little bit, let the joints sort of move and separate, get the joint capsules to give a little bit. We will be capturing some of the muscle tissue underneath this. It's kind of like a little bit of a trigger points exercise as well. But then what I want you to do after a while is if you just try and gently lift your head up off the ground a little bit and squeeze those muscles, so tense the muscles in your neck and head. I'm going to try and do a proprioceptive neuromuscular technique or a contract relax technique where we're on the joint to begin with, you take your head off the ground a little bit, try and squeeze everything, clench your jaw, do whatever you need to do, hold that for 5 to 10 seconds to get the muscles to tense up, so that when you relax, you should feel like those muscles give a little bit more. You might find the ball sinks in a little bit further. Stay here for a couple of minutes or as long as you feel you need to. Be very respectful, don't go any harder than you feel comfortable, and then keep repeating that process down sort of halfway down to your neck. And then obviously do both sides if you need to, but start on the one side to begin with, almost like that upper quadrant of your neck, the top 2 or 3 levels on that one side. And once you've done that, then just repeat the same movement again. And what I can find already is it automatically feels like there's less resistance to turn side to side. Now I did this side So if you can imagine there's a handbrake here, as my head turns around, everything needs to open up through there. So if the joints and muscles are stiff, it just doesn't let me move around. Same thing, go back the other way. As I close down those joints, if they're already stiff, then they're going to jam up a little bit more because they don't have that natural give in the joints to slide across each other and express that normal rotation movement. It's a really, really powerful exercise to give you back your natural range of motion through your neck in ways that a lot of the traditional stretches that we tend to give out just don't touch. Because a lot of traditional stretches are more muscular-based stretches. But if there's a rusty joint underneath, you're only going to make so much progress, and then that muscle's just going to tighten up again because we haven't addressed that underlying problem. Now, the other thing to note while we're doing this is these sections of your neck, the top sections of your neck that are often the stiffest, that are affecting your ability to rotate, can also refer pain to your head and ears and jaw as well, to your face essentially. So if you're someone who starts to feel a little bit lightheaded, a little bit dizzy, if you've been having headaches or you get headaches, you start to feel them. If you get ringing in your ears and you suddenly feel like that goes away, jaw pain starts to change, sinus dysfunction, blocked noses, all these other things which we can often dissociate as separate issues. If you start to remove some of those stiff handbrakes in your upper neck and you start to see some of those other symptoms start to regress as well, I just wanted to point out that that may not be a coincidence. There might be some other things around that that start to improve that you didn't necessarily bargain for when you started to do this exercise. So please let me know in the comments down below that when you're doing this exercise, do you notice something else happening as well? If you do, then again, that may be linked to what you're doing. But as we always do on the channel here, it's not enough for me just to give you an exercise to hopefully help an issue that you're dealing with day to day. We need to have a very adult conversation surrounding why that part of your neck, why there's very specific parts of your neck that you're finding with the ball are stiffer and tighter than other parts of your neck, why maybe your left side is stiffer than your right side, maybe one joint is stiffer than the one below it. We know the body's designed to function normally if given the chance. If something has become dysfunctional, we have to figure out what that is. And based on my experiences over the years and what I've sort of uncovered talking with patients day to day, there's always one thing that stands out to be the biggest cause of a lot of this hidden dysfunction that robs us of day-to-day basic function. And you probably know what it is, but it's the postures and the shapes that we get into. So posture is such a controversial, dirty word in a lot of ways because it's very hard to link bad posture to pain, but we want to have a conversation here regarding bad posture and the things that are causing dysfunction which can lead to pain. So we're not talking about pain here, we're just talking about why things are becoming stiff, tight, and dysfunctional. You can see a lot of really powerful clues if we start to look at the shapes and the positions that you put that part of your body in day to day. If you're someone who has to look down a lot day to day, whether you're using a laptop, whether you're playing instruments, whether you are writing, reading a book, reading a newspaper, working on a desk, whether you're someone who sits back into a chair a lot and reclines, and by extension to see what's in front of you, you now have to bend your neck. So not that you're sitting looking down, but because you're leaning backwards, you're relatively looking down because you're creating a hinge to your neck by being in that position. There's a very good chance that you're looking down enough to create a hinge through that part of your neck that over time your body is reinforcing against that excessive load to support that shape where you're hinging through that section and then either looking to one side or the other side to really bias that part of your neck. I genuinely hope that was helpful. I hope that perspective gives you that aha moment that really helps you improve this day to day. As I said at the start, this may not necessarily hurt you, it may not necessarily be top of your list of things to work on, but it's something that you deserve to have. It's really important that you have a set of tools and a perspective to try and get that to decrease and disappear long term. So again, if that was helpful, let me know. Please consider subscribing, like the video if you found it useful. Perhaps leave a super thanks if you found that this was worthwhile. But with that being said, we'll see you in the next one.